What's up, everybody? I hope everyone is having an amazing night so far. I am here with a very special guest, Alex 247 Canes, doing a tremendous job breaking down opponents. He's been reviewing Clemson's football team at the moment, reviewed the Virginia game, the Wake Forest game, the Citadel game, every single game Clemson has played the past season as well. Even Pro Football Focus messaged him on Twitter stating, hey, man, are you interested in joining us? I mean, he's that good at what he does. Alex, thank you so much for coming on and taking time out of your night. It truly is a pleasure.
Thank you for having me, Paul. It's been great. It's a great night here in Miami. I'm just ready to talk Canes football with you and get this video rolling.
And Alex, with all the homework you've done, you feel like you figured out a way how Miami can successfully beat Clemson. Am I right or wrong?
You are correct. At least I believe that. I strongly believe that we could beat Clemson. It's not impossible. So let's get on to it.
Alex, if we're gonna start somewhere, we got to go with the best quarterback in the nation right now, Trevor Lawrence. I mean, it's like he comes in as a freshman and just wins the national title. I don't think he's ever seen failure except for this past season against LSU in the national title game. But he truly is a special talent. How do you take down this just great talent at hand that we have at quarterback with Trevor Lawrence? I mean, even as a quarterback on his feet, he's 6'6", 240. I mean, you can't even bring him down. He has a hell of an arm. He has great wide receivers around him. What's the secret to stopping Trevor Lawrence?
And that's a great question, and that's basically the toughest task for any team that does go up against Clemson. Is you got the two-headed monster of Trevor Lawrence. And I call him a two-headed monster because he's not just going to sit there and pick you apart in the pocket. He's actually going to run. And a lot of people, they're aware of this, but they lose track of it during the game. So just to answer your question and start somewhere and to start divulging into this, okay, the way you affect them, it has to go out through the course of the game. The game is a chess match with him. You got to throw different looks at him. You look at what Virginia did defensively. They threw zone, they threw man, they sent blitzes, they overloaded one side a couple of times, and that's what I see that teams have been doing in order to get to him. If you look at his passing direction, meaning which sides he passes and what percentage he completes at, a lot of it is short yardage, sure passes. Like in between the numbers, you got Etienne and you have Amari Rodgers, which are his go-tos. So it all starts with affecting that. And what contributes to him being so successful there is that teams are dropping back 6 and 7 DBs into coverage, okay? So it allows him just to get everything underneath. So Clemson knows that. So when they see it, they identify it on, when they see it, they go ahead and exploit it. So that gets him into an early rhythm. And then you have to see, how you blitz him, because you cannot just blitz him. Look, let me give you the interesting stats and start really talking about how you beat Trevor Lawrence. All right. Trevor Lawrence, when pressured, okay, by the front four, okay, he completes only 48% of his passes. That was back in 2019, right? 44% in 2018. So, and, you got to think about pressure. The word pressure is key because there's one thing that's called blitzing and there's another thing that's pressure. So if we pressure him, we have to get to him enough that we affect his throw, we affect the timing of him and his receivers, and that's where it all starts. If I told you you could hold Trevor Lawrence to completing less than 55% of his passes, you have a great recipe to do that. And how do you do that? Well, the defensive line, okay, has to get to the quarterback. And where Clemson is particularly weak in offensive line is their interior offensive linemen, okay, in between the guard and the center. That is their weakest points. To the advantage of Clemson, they like running on the outsides outside of the tackles. That's where Trevor Lawrence likes to take off. It's always on the outside. Very seldomly would you see Trevor Lawrence just, design QB run right up the middle, okay? So there's a lot of things that have to happen. Nesta Silvera has to get to him, and not only get to him, he has to bring him down. Like you said, 6'6", 240. That is a big guy to bring down. Jared Harrison Hunt has to do the same thing. And it can't be where, they may be holding him or whatever, and he's able to tap Trevor Lawrence with his hand and affect this. No, it can't be that. It has to be your defensive line has to play until they hear the whistle, period. Too many times I've seen Trevor Lawrence break contain, particularly to the left side, okay, and then make a godly throw downfield when you thought he was going out for a 2-yard loss, and he chucks it downfield. So it all starts with our defensive line. Can we get pressure? Can we send just 4? Can we send just 3 and get to him? If we can do that, which I believe we can, okay, we are going to start affecting him, and then we could throw the exotic blitzes at him, because you can't just blitz Trevor Lawrence because he'll just, he'll just throw right into it. You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So it's a chess game. You have to throw different looks at him, but you can't be scared to blitz him either. Too many teams that I've seen that throw too many blitzes at him, they figure it out. You get me? So I'm saying blitz minimally, okay? Say maybe out of all his dropbacks, let's say he has 40 dropbacks or 35, somewhere in that range. I'd say blitz him maybe 8 to 9 times. Keep it under 10. But make sure when you blitz him, okay, it's on different downs and they're not able to detect a pattern. You understand? You have to affect him. You cannot just play man. You cannot just play zone. You have to do it according, obviously, to their personnel, but you have to do it particularly well when you blitz him. Okay, so the way it starts is up front, like I said, with Nesta Silvera, Jared Harrison Hunt, Jonathan Ford, whoever is playing the defensive tackle position has to get there. I know we got Jalen Phillips. I know we got Quincy Roche, but I'll be worried more about them containing the quarterback than to actually be, just going straight at him. Okay. And also something that all the teams that have been into a dogfight with Clemson all the way to the end, they've had 2 things in common, but we'll stick to the one that's the defensive side of the ball. They've all had elite defensive back play. Okay. You go back to OSU, Ohio State, which I think they had the best defensive game plan, them and LSU, against Clemson. They should have been up 28-0 at the half in that PlayStation, whatever you want to call it, bowl or whatever, last year, the playoff.
Yes.
They should have been 28-0. Okay, and what they kept on doing is they kept on, one, playing man at certain times. They were playing press with a combination of zone. And so what they would do is they'll get a linebacker and put him into a zone of bump their Clemson's receivers, okay, and then force them to throw in between the numbers into that coverage, okay? And if I'm not mistaken, they had a top 5 pick, Chase Young?
Yeah, Redskins.
Getting in there, right? So you already know the defensive line has to get there. The defensive backs have to do their job, okay, which is DJ Ivey, Al Blades, Gilbert Frierson, whoever's out there playing, lining up at the receivers, you have to stop them, okay? You have to play well. You can't You can't just play good for one half and then, or play good for three quarters. You have to, solidify that, because if there's coverage sacks against Trevor Lawrence, that is a great recipe for success. You got to think about it. It's a lot easier said than done, but it can happen. So talking a little bit more about our defense on how to stop Trevor Lawrence, you got to look at his tendencies. I know I'm going on for a long time, but all these things have to go right, because this is the best college quarterback right now. Okay, so you have to look at the tendencies. Where does he like to throw to certain players? On third down, there's three key players that we need to key in on. Number one is Amari Rodgers, all right? Trevor Lawrence loves to go to Amari Rodgers in between the numbers, okay, between, 10 yards to 15 yards on third down. So that means any crossing patterns. So that tells you right there, a lot of teams are playing zone on third down. So maybe mix it up a little bit. Play a little bit of man on third down and, try to affect them, see how the game is going. Okay, that's just one of the things. The second would be Travis Etienne, okay, because you could give him the ball in space, and what does Travis Etienne do? He's one of the best college running backs in space. He will break tackles to get a first down, and Clemson loves to do these little tunnel screens to get him out in space and on one-on-one situations.
Right.
So you have to start those things, and that's how you beat Trevor Lawrence. It's a daunting task, but it's possible. And if we scheme right, our players execute, and we truly believe that we could win, because it's all a chess match. Like I said, it's up here. It's in your mind, right? Then we have a better chance at it. But I want to keep on talking about Trevor Lawrence, but I feel like it's just going to take up too much time of this video. But that's the main portion. Rule number one, okay? You have to affect Trevor Lawrence. And, we will see what comes from that.
Alex, do you believe in Blake Baker's defense? There's been a lot of criticism about Blake Baker this past season leading up to this game. Do you believe he can get the win against Todd Elliott's offense?
Can he get the win? It's possible. I'm confident in him. People need to understand that you have to give the offense, the opponents, something, because it's all, you take away this, but you give them this. So, for example, I don't know if somebody knows this, but we took away Florida State's receivers and run game completely out of the books. We limited Louisville's receivers, like we took them out of the game, but we gave them those runs. So, as long as we are in a game where we have a 14-point lead, or we keep scoring and we're putting pressure offensively on the other team, okay, it makes it a lot easier on our defense, because we could make the other team one-dimensional if we're successful at taking away certain things. Can Blake Baker do that against Clemson? Sure he can. But it all starts with affecting their biggest playmakers, which is Frank Ladson, unfortunately for deep threats, okay, and Amari Rodgers, okay, because they account for most of their touchdowns, So can Blake Baker do it? Yes, sure he can. I'm confident he can. Will he do it? We will see.
247 Canes, man, dropping some serious knowledge. Remember, this kid is the future of Pro Football Focus. I'm not even kidding, man. Look out for him. He's got hurricaneshuddle.com in the works as well. So that website will be dropping shortly, be covering high school recruits and Hurricanes football. Alex, listen, that wide receiver core, it is young. Frank Ladson, they did lose a couple players, Justin Ross, T. Higgins. Amari Rodgers, man, he's very good. He's probably one of the best slot receivers in the nation. He kind of reminds me of Kadarius Toney a little bit, but man, he is really built, very physical. How do our defensive backs match up against Clemson's wide receiver core? And they also, I believe his name is E.J. Williams, true freshman. He's number one ranked recruit. Not number, sorry, my apologies, 5-star recruit in the nation this past season. So how does our cornerbacks, how do they match up, and how can they be successful and win the wide receiver cornerback battle come Saturday night, prime time in Death Valley?
Well, it all starts with execution. Let's be real. Assuming Blake Baker does a good job at putting our playmakers and our best players on their best players, and he puts them in a position to succeed. It all starts there. It all starts with the execution of their play. So if they're called on a zone, right? Let's say we're playing a cover 3, and we got Al Blades dropping into coverage, or we're playing quarters defense, whatever Blake Baker calls. He has to rise to the occasion and know when to break on a route and when not to break on a route. He has to be disciplined enough to not bite too early or not bite too late. He has to play until the whistle blows and win the one-on-one matchups. You cannot take a risk. Let's say Frank Ladson goes on a deep route, outside the numbers to the left side of the field. Trevor Lawrence breaks contain, starts scrambling, extends the play. You cannot stop, okay, and just look to oblivion. You have to actually play it smart. You have to cover the receiver, cover your zone, and know your responsibility. Because too many times, like I've said, I've seen these receivers, they ran their route, but here comes Trevor Lawrence. He extends the play, and then the receivers come back to where Trevor Lawrence is, and the opponent loses sight of the receivers, and then here comes one of these plays when it could have been 4th down, but now it's moving the chains, and not only moving the chains, but they're on the other side of the field. So it all starts with our defensive backs being disciplined and executing to stop these receivers. 3rd down, they must know we have to have a zone, or if not a zone, our best player on their best players, period. So our best players on their best players. If we're calling man, if we're calling zone, there has to be somebody in the zones where they like to throw, because Trevor Lawrence likes to throw into tight windows, and we know he could throw it into tight windows. We've seen him do it. So it all starts with the execution. That's what I strongly believe. So we will see what turns out from that.
No, I completely agree. I mean, our cornerbacks, they have to play a very good football game. I don't think they have to play a perfect football game. But listen, man, Frank Ladson, you made a hell of a catch against UVA. Amari Rogers, man, the guy is a playmaker. He had over 6 receptions against UVA. They have talent at the wide receiver core, and they have the best quarterback in the nation. Not to mention Travis Etienne, like you mentioned, man. Tunnel screens, the guy breaks tackles left and right. We better be ready to play. Is there anything else you want to add offensively from Clemson on how to stop their this is going to be one of the best offenses Miami's going to see all season. I mean, this is one of the best offenses in the nation. It might just be a barn burner to 48. It might be a high-power Big 12-style football offensive game.
Correct. Yeah, absolutely. I'll add something to it, and I'll add something specific to receiver-wise. I'll break it down to pretty much a science for everybody. All right. So who's Frank Ladson? Frank Ladson, he's seen from what I know, he's it could be a little higher, but from what I know, I believe he's accounted for 13 targets of Trevor Lawrence, and he has 2 touchdowns deep, like beyond 20 yards. Okay, and it's usually outside left, outside the numbers, and between the numbers. Okay, those are the 2 touchdowns. So we know that's their deep threat. So we know whoever is responsible for that area needs to perform. When they see Frank Ladson going for a deep route, our players must be aware they can't get behind me. They can't get behind me. They have to know, you know. So let's talk about Brandon Galloway, which I did not mention, which is their tight end. I don't know if you know this, and people haven't realized this, but for the last 2 weeks, for the last 2 games, okay, Miami has allowed tight ends to score the touchdowns, okay? That's 2 straight weeks. And Brandon Galloway is a guy that lives in between the numbers, between 0 to 10 yards, okay, and they use him a lot, okay? And if Miami cannot stop Brandon Galloway, they're going to keep going. Clemson has, a good set of tight ends. They have Chalk, they have Galloway, and they have another tight end that's pretty good that they use. But the main guy that I'm concerned, because he presents a matchup problem, especially if we put a linebacker on him, okay, is Brandon Galloway. So look for him to work the middle of the field. Nothing deep really with Brandon Galloway unless there's a broken coverage. Just know that he lives basically, behind anything that's 10 yards. That's where majority of his receptions are. Okay. And going back to the offense, to Trevor Lawrence, okay, take away anything that's deep. Take away the explosive plays. I will live with anything. I'll live with them getting first down after first down after first down, little by little, and chewing up the clock. I don't care. I will live with that. I will be happily beat that way, because I'll tell you why. Out of all this that I'm seeing here in front of me, 2 touchdowns, 1 touchdown. He accounts for 5 touchdowns that he's thrown has been over 10 yards, Trevor Lawrence, okay? Everything below 10 yards, okay, they only account for 2 touchdowns. So what do I say by that? What do I mean by that? I mean, we have to take away the explosive play, the deep threats, and we have to play until the whistle blows. We have to be disciplined. We cannot give Trevor Lawrence a second chance on a stupid personal foul, excuse my language, or any of those things where, we start giving them free plays. And be disciplined at linebacker. Do not play more than 2 linebackers at a time unless they are in our red zone or unless they're beyond the 20. And field position is crucial to this game. So it's not so bad for us to punt as long as we're pinning them deep and making them work their way down the field. Because if they have to work their way down the field and we're limiting their explosive plays, we're increasing our chances to win this game. Okay? And Travis Etienne, listen, he's going to do work. He's going to do his things. As long as we tackle properly, okay, meaning on one-on-one situations or when he's on the outside, we don't let him break too many tackles, we should be fine. Got it? So we will see what happens.
Yeah, we'll see. We shall see come prime time, man. I cannot wait. Just the matchup, Brett Lashley, Brett Venables going at it, Todd Elliott, Blake Baker, man, a lot of people on Twitter are giving him heat. It's going to be one hell of a matchup come Saturday night. Let's switch over to the defensive side of the football. How can Miami's offensive line have success against a very young and talented defensive line at Clemson? Myles Murphy leads the team with sacks. Our offensive line has vastly improved, but they will not see a better defensive line than this one. I don't care what those experts stated about Florida State. They suck. That program flat out sucks. Marvin Wilson, completely overrated. This is the best of the best come October 10th. How do you think the matchup fares for Miami, and how can they dominate the trenches?
That's a great question, Paul, and I'm glad you asked it, because let me just talk a little bit about something else real quick, and I'll answer your question. Listen, one of the biggest problems that people have, defensively stopping Clemson is actually beating their blitzes, their exotic blitzes. They have so many people that could play linebacker, okay? so many different athletes that they can put in different specific packages, that they have so many versatile players. And you mentioned one of them right now that could play, 3 technique, 4 he could play anything, okay, in that defense. And that is what is so hard about figuring them out defensively. They could have freshmen, for all I care, out there. But Brent Venables knows how to use those freshmen. So it's all a chess match. It's all making Clemson react to us instead of us reacting to Clemson. I know that sounds kind of weird. May sound like I'm completely not talking about football, but Resh Lashley is a great offensive mind, right? So he's going to know. But now to switch back and go back to our offensive line and your question, which is, how do we deal with that? Okay. Our offensive line has to be ready to have guys that are 6'5", 300 pounds like Marvin Wilson, but better. And it's kind of ironic because we're going from facing the worst team in the ACC to facing the best team in the ACC. So this is our biggest test. We haven't been tested, and we're really going to get tested now. This is where I'm going to see actually where our offensive line is really progressing. They haven't allowed a sack this season. But to say that we're not going to allow a sack against Clemson, I will completely be, on my knees in front of Green Tree, worshiping Manny Diaz and worshiping our offensive line coach. I'm sorry, I forgot his name right now. My mind just went blank thinking about his name. But I will be worshiping them if our offensive line does not allow a sack. Okay? So the key thing is to execute the play that's called, okay, and know that we have to finish, okay? We have to finish. And what do I mean by that? Finish your blocks, finish your assignment. Anything that goes wrong, just do what Manny Diaz has been preaching all year. Play the next play. Play the next play. Doesn't matter if you get beat. If Zion Nelson gets beat around the edge one time and King gets sacked or whatever, just play the next play. It's another opportunity for you to assert dominance. Don't be afraid. There's nothing to be afraid of. Okay? This is the best of the best. And you have to want it. You have to want to prove to everybody that not only you could go up against the best, but you're better. So it's a fairly psychological game, in my opinion. But the way you stop them is by just sticking to your identity, sticking to what you know, and listening to the coaches. And go ahead, Paul.
I'm going to be very interested how De'Aaron King, when put under pressure, how his running ability will be against Clemson.
Right.
Yeah, they do not have fast linebackers at all. I was not impressed with their linebackers one bit. Virginia was very successful running the football, had 137 rushing yards. No, sorry, 147. They were very successful running the football. They're at quarterback. Armstrong actually had 22 carries, 89 yards. De'Aaron King, I think he'll be very successful on his feet.
Correct. So, I mean, there's not that much film on Armstrong, but there's film on King already.
Right.
So that's going to have to play.
Filter quarterback in the nation.
Right, exactly. So, but, one could argue that point.
Okay, fair.
Okay, but at the same time, you have to look at, what is the weakness of their linebackers. They were playing Venables, okay? And Venables is a liability in coverage. That's why I think there's mismatches that we could exploit against their linebackers. So let's say they're going to put a safety on Brevin Jordan. Well, okay, answer. Keep Cam Harris in the game at running back. Put Jalen Knighton in at slot. I want to see that. I want to see these mismatches and just attack, because there's no way you could tell me that Venables' son at linebacker can cover Jalen Knighton.
Right.
That's a mismatch.
Exactly.
Okay? So these are the type of things that we need to exploit. We need to find creative ways to, set it up for the next play.
And keyword, you said creative, right?
Correct.
Rhett Lashley.
Correct.
Most
Absolutely.
play caller in the game.
That's why I strongly believe that it's going to happen, man. Rhett Lashley is going to win that game against their defensive coordinators, Brent Venables. But it all starts to how we execute, and do we commit any mistakes? Are we on third down, and then on third down we have an atrocious holding call on a play that was successful for a first down, and now we have to replay that down, and now it's third and long. That's what it's going to come down to, And De'Aaron King, Clemson's aware that he has a running ability. Clemson has struggled containing mobile quarterbacks. So exploit that. And not only exploit it, exploit something else. So, they know we love that zone read and running to the right with Cam Harris. They know that. But add that extra option of Jalen Knighton. So get a zone read pass option and take care of that all day. Once they make adjustments, add a wrinkle or two, switch it up, go to the run game if it's working. If it's not working, go to our tight end because if our tight end is going to be successful, it's going to be when one of their linebackers are covering.
Right.
And, we'll see what happens. They got a couple guys at linebacker, and the way they utilize their linebackers is more towards pressure than it is towards coverage, and it's more as run-stopping linebackers than it is coverage linebackers. That's why it's kind of hard to key in on a certain recipe for success for these to figure out these linebackers because there's just so many of them, and there's so many different formations that Venables can put out there to answer anything that we're doing offensively. But I know that we're in good hands with Rhett Lashley for that.
Exactly. And, I think Lashley's going to stick with his guns this game. He's going to stick with Brevin Jordan, utilize the tight ends. We're going to go run-heavy offense. I think we already know what the identity of our wide receiver core is. Mark Pope, Mike Harley. We're not going to put them out on the boundary. We're going to put them in the inside. We're going to have D. Wiggins as our deep ball threat. That's our go-to guy. So if we connect with a couple deep balls with D. Wiggins, look out, man. It may be a very interesting night come October 10th in Death Valley. I'll be there. Brad's going to be there. Alex, you going to the game?
I'm unfortunately not going to be able to make the Clemson game, but I will be at a certain other games, and including one away game this year, which would be Wake Forest, which hopefully I can meet you up for that game. So that's going to be fun.
I'll hold you to it, man. Cornerbacks, how do they look against Miami's wide receiver core? I feel like Miami can win this battle. I really do. The problem is we don't catch the football. That is my problem. We get open. Getting open is not the problem with our wide receivers. It's catching the football.
Right. And I know people are worried about catching the football and all that stuff, and that's legitimately true. The reception, the art of the reception, it's always catch the ball, and then once you secure it, you take off and make a play. So one thing that I will say about receivers and the importance of beating Clemson, the recipe, all the teams, just like the DBs thing, where if there's one thing in common that everybody has played Clemson and been in a dogfight, OSU, which is Ohio State, LSU, I could count for many different other games, but I'll mention even UNC. They all had elite wide receiver play. They were able to go one-on-one with Clemson's DBs, and they had A.J. Terrell last year, just mind you that, an NFL corner. Now, they went up and made a play, okay? And spectacular plays. Plays that I was like, wow, that's – when do I ever see that from a Miami receiver?
Right.
And it's not that they can't. It's not that I doubt that they could do that. It's just that, they have the ability. It's just they haven't done that this year. So if there's a position group that needs to really step up for this game and show their potential, is the wide receivers. How do you exploit that? Well, Andrew Booth, I'm not too impressed with that guy. I think that we could legitimately beat him. I think that D. Wiggins on him at any given moment, if that happens at any given time, D. Wiggins has the mismatch there. He wins that matchup. They have other cornerbacks, De'Arian Kendrick. He's one of their, corners. he's probably their best corner in my opinion. He's graded out pretty well. And then you got Sheridan Jones, which is another one of the cornerbacks. He's not elite, okay? We have more talent at receiver than they do at defensive back. Yes, I'm aware of that crazy interception or the could-be interception that Andrew Booth had against Virginia with that one-hander. But don't fall for that, man. That's just one play that he made. Right? And you can't tell me that Miami doesn't have better receivers than Virginia.
By the way, too, Armstrong, I mean, he just threw a softball up there. It wasn't like a laser, like a Jaquan Johnson pick that we saw against Virginia Tech. Like, it was a fade route. He was just throwing a softball, jump ball in the air.
Correct. So, you look at those. Go ahead.
Great catch, nonetheless.
Right. If you look at besides the Virginia game, Andrew Booth, he's their weakest link at corner. He gave up two big plays.
Yeah.
Before that game. Okay. He struggled against Citadel at times. There's key players in Clemson's secondary between their safeties, which is their last line of defense, that have some tackling issues. So if we could get out there and our receivers, first off, they need to catch the ball. But if our receivers can break one tackle and hit home, that's going to be great for us. We're going to be very, very happy people. Okay? Come, October 10th, correct?
Yes, sir. We are 6 days away, Alex. 6 days away.
Let that sink in for a moment.
Here's my thing. Manny Diaz said it best. Our biggest enemy is the bye week. He has a game after bye weeks. Can he correct that issue? That is when we know we will see change. Once we win a game after a bye week, and how do we play after a loss? Because if Miami loses to Clemson, whether it's by 3, 10, or 40, we got Pittsburgh the next week. We better be ready to go because we win consecutively and lose consecutively at Miami.
Correct. That is 100% fact. But here's the thing that we have going forward, okay? We have a quarterback. We have a kicker. We have a way better offensive line. I know who we've played is kind of suspect right now. That doesn't really matter. But our biggest enemy has been the bye week, okay? And if any coach knows, if anybody knows good coaches, they never have a bye week. They're never off. That doesn't mean that Manny Diaz doesn't have time to watch a Heat game. I'm just saying, this is going to be bigger than just Manny Diaz. This is an organizational win. If we win this game, which I truly think we can, okay, and mind you, the title of this video is How We Beat Clemson. It has to be an organizational effort. What do I mean by that? It has to be Blake James running to Manny Diaz and Ed Reed and everybody there and say, do you have all the resources that you need? Do you have all the film that you need? Do you have everything that you need for this game? There has to be extra work. Do you have all the guys? Do you need them to work more hours? What do you need? It starts with him, and it trickles down to the coaching staff. It trickles down from the coaching staff to the scouting team, to the practices, to the players, to even the fan base, us, injecting that positive energy, moving forward, not letting our previous success, be our biggest enemy either, but going in there with the confidence and our heads up that we're going to execute every play to the best of our abilities. Okay, so it all starts with that. It's an organizational win. It doesn't just fall on Manny. It doesn't just fall on Blake Baker. It falls on the whole organization of the University of Miami. So if we win, which I truly think we can, don't give the credit just to Manny Diaz or Blake Baker. Give it to everybody that's behind the scenes. Give it to the people like, the Ryan Ragonis. Everybody has put all their effort into this. If we lose, then hey, we lost. There's nothing to be happy about. It's just a situation where you have to learn from it, and move on. We got Pitt next week, like you just said. So it is what it is. We will see what happens. But in order for us to win, everybody has to pitch in.
And I 100% agree, Alex. Hell of a job tonight, man. Thank you so much for doing your homework, breaking down every single Clemson game the past year. Anything else you just want to add regarding the defensive side of the football? It's going to be one hell of a matchup, man. Come Saturday night. I cannot wait.
Play to the whistle blows. Everybody. We all know Trevor Lawrence's running ability, running threat. We know he has a tendency of, look, I want every single fan of Miami that's either watching back at home, watching with their friends, or whatever, to be right in front of that TV. And when you see Clemson, if they are able to get into the red zone with us, against us, and it's a short yardage situation, and you see Etienne in the backfield and 3 receivers, I want you to pay attention to Trevor Lawrence and scream it out at the top of your lungs. Watch Trevor Lawrence. Watch Trevor Lawrence. Watch Trevor Lawrence. Because too many times I've seen defenses focus in on the running back, and Trevor Lawrence just walks into the end zone untouched. I know that sounds kind of, superstitious or whatever, but that's the type of mentality and that's the type of energy that we have to feed to this fan base and the players. They have to be ready. That's something that's a tendency of them, and I don't want to sound redundant, Paul, but it is what it is, man. We have an opportunity. This is the recipe going forward. We have to execute what the coaches say, and we have to come prepared in knowing these tendencies of who Clemson likes to go to on third downs, where do they like to throw the ball, and everything, and what has affected Trevor Lawrence the most. So something else I'll throw in there. I know it's random, but whatever. A lot of success blitzing Trevor Lawrence has been overloading one side, because there's something about that deep beyond 20 yards on the right side that's not working well with Trevor Lawrence. What it is, I don't know. But he struggled last year. He struggled the year before that. And I haven't really seen much big plays to the right side of the field, to be honest. Whatever that is, I haven't identified it yet. I'll get back to you on that, but I hope we're aware of that. So it might be smart to overload that left side on a blitz and force him right. Who knows? We will see. And we have to play the whole four quarters lights out. We can't just play 3 quarters and let it ride. We have to finish drives. We can't settle for field goals. Because if you go back to the Ohio State game, Ohio State was up 16-0, but they couldn't put up 6 when they were in the red zone twice, so they settled for field goals. So instead of it being 28-0, it was 16-0, and they went down from there. Trevor Lawrence scrambles for a 67-yard touchdown that game, and all the energy and all the momentum went back to them.
College
we will see.
Is going to be there. Everybody and their mom will be in Clemson, South Carolina. ESPN be live on ABC 8 p.m. Top 10 matchup in Death Valley. Alex, what's your score prediction?
That's a great question.
Yeah.
But this video, you know what this video is about? This video is about the recipe and how we win.
Exactly.
Okay? So since we put that out there, I'm going to put it out there. I say we keep Clemson under 50% productivity on their touchdowns and in their drives.
Okay.
So I'm going to say Clemson 27, Miami 30 by a field goal.
Wow. You think that's my score prediction, I think it's going to be a high offensive power. I think Clemson and Miami are just going to go back and forth. Whoever gets stopped on offense. I have it 48-45, Miami with a Borregales field goal to win the game. I truly think our cornerbacks are going to be extremely tested. Trevor Lawrence, if we don't put pressure on him, he's going to put up a lot of points. Travis Etienne, we have to wrap up. We have to finish our tackles because he will have a big game. He had a big receiving-wise was the bigger portion in yards against UVA.
Right.
He wasn't carrying the football. He only had like 13 or 14 carries for 78 yards. Now, receiving the ball, he had like 5 receptions for 124 yards. It was a dumb number or more. So that's the X factor in this Clemson offense is Travis Etienne. When in space, breaking tackles. He moves this offense. We'll see, man. I got 48-45 Miami. I've changed my score prediction 3 times. I'm going to stick with it. That's what I got. If Miami can hold Clemson to 50% productivity rate, I think they win this football game.
Same. That's exactly what I aim for. I think Blake Baker has a big daunting task. I want to express to everybody, to be patient and trust this guy because he's put a lot of our playmakers in prime position to make a play. That's why you see Bubba Bolden, the success that he's had. You can't ignore that he's put him in these specific positions to make these plays. I know he's instinctive, but he's been in the right spot a lot of times. Zach McLeod has a pick. Al Blades has a couple picks. One thanks to Bubba Bolden. But let me just mention that real quick. I promise I won't keep you long, Paul. I'd like to see Bubba Bolden play closer, up closer, because I think he has the ability to affect not only the run game, but the pass game as well. I don't want to see him in deep coverage. I want to see him play closer because I think he can have an impact on that game on both Etienne and Trevor Lawrence because he's that great of a player. I want to see him closer to not play like close to the line of scrimmage, but you know what I mean? Probably like 5 yards off the ball, 7 yards off the ball, but no more than that. Because I think he's one of our playmakers, and I think that he has the ability to erase a lot of plays. I forgot who mentioned it, but somebody mentioned that he was the eraser for us, and I think that's a great nickname for him because he's the eraser of what could have been a big play for the opposing team and how he saved our butts. So I just wanted to add those 2 cents because I remembered there's so much stuff. But, Paul, we will see what happens. I love your score prediction. I'm pretty sure I'll change mine. But we will see what happens come October 10th.
247 Canes. Alex, thank you again for coming on, man. Check them out, hurricaneshuddle.com. We'll be premiering soon. The future and pride and joy of pro football focus. Alex, thank you again, man.
Thank you for having me, Paul. Go Canes.
Go Canes.